Hello and welcome to the TAC video on Gradebook Basics. To access your gradebook in TAC Teacher Access Center, go to the PPS staff page and under Educational Tools, click eSchool Plus TAC as indicated. Use your district login and your AD credentials, same thing you use for your laptop or for your email, and you'll access TAC. The home page you see here shows all of the courses that you're scheduled to teach, whatever you've been added as a teacher to. What you should look for are, on the far left, the time the class is taught, which is time slot, not periods that you guys typically talk about, but the time slot that it's scheduled in. And on the right-hand side, the three icons represent Gradebook, IPRs, and report cards. So we're going to talk about how to enter grades. Click the black book icon. You see this particular gradebook has some entries already, and we're going to talk about how to do that. What you'll notice in Gradebook, if you open one up that has grades in it, you'll see the color codes. If your course happens to be tied to a grading template that has different categories, you have choices when you enter an assignment, and those are color coded. Many courses are assigned to a total points template, so all of your tabs will be the same color. You can also see that we have an option over here that says all categories. There's a drop down. You can look at different things. This, again, we can look at classwork or homework or quarter marks, whatever we want to look at. And that's the grade to date in that column. So if I look at all categories, that's basically everything. If grades ended today, those are the grades those students would get. I can look at an individual category, for example, homework, and then you see the homework assignments only show in the homework grade for the students are displayed. Progress grades, that's the IPR we mentioned earlier. If it was IPR time, this would show you exactly what would be sent home on an IPR. Again, using the drop down. Typically, you're probably going to want all categories to be your default view, which shows you everything. Also notice the thick blue line at the end of the assignments here. That represents today. So literally anything to the left of the blue line had a due date in the past, and anything to the right if you put a future due date. Now in this particular video, we're using an archived version of TAC from 2019, but you get the idea of past dates and future dates. To add an assignment, I click the page with the plus sign. That opens up this interface. You have some things you must interact with and some you can skip. Like title, you have to have something as a title of the assignment. I'm going to put in a demo in this case. Date assigned, you have to put a date you assigned it and a date that it's due. The due dates are going to come into play, especially around report card time and IPR time, because the due date has to be before the report card date. And I'll copy that and make that the due date as well. Copy and paste that. There, I could put a description in if I wish. I don't have to, but I can. It's informative for your parents who see Home Access Center, HAC, or HAC. It might be helpful if you have a description of your assignments. I'll put something in there. That's optional. Now I'll come down to points, and I put in total points for this particular assignment. Then I get to pick category. Now some of us have categories in our gradebook, so we select whichever category makes sense. If we're a high school teacher, we're not going to use SEMX, that's semester exam, until midterms and finals. Many of our classes have total points as a template, so that's your only choice is total points. Now come down and click Save, and you'll see the assignment has been put into your gradebook with no scores, but the assignment's there. So to enter an assignment, you simply click inside and type in your score for each individual student. You can do that. Click and type. Very simple to add those in. You can see how immediately after saving, the score we put in impacts the student's overall score in the average column. in letter grade. We can also notice that we have students who are not meeting the 50% threshold. So if we were about to do report cards or IPRs, we would have to put in extra credit to boost up these student scores because we can't send home, click over here, we can't send home an 18% for a kid. So how can we go about adding extra credit to a student? Well, of course there's an answer to that, or I wouldn't have asked the question. We can add an assignment that's worth extra credit. So let's take a look at that. We're going to add the assignment just like any other assignment we have. But we have two options once we enter the assignment, to add the total points or to just add extra credit assignments. So let's take a look at that. Hit the plus sign, and we're going to come in with the demo. We'll call this one again extra credit. Still need a due date and a date assigned. We come in here. Now the trick with the extra credit is we have to pick a category that's already been used. We can't use a new category for extra credit. So I happen to know that we used homework because I see the green. So we're going to go ahead and click homework and make an extra credit assignment in the homework category. I'm going to make it worth, I can make it worth any point value I want. Up to 100, I guess, would make the most sense. But I'm going to say here, right here, add to average. Add to average is the key. Because what we'll be able to do here, I'll make this worth 50 points. Because I can't have a kid with anything less than a 50 showing on any kind of documentation. I'm going to make this extra credit worth up to 50 points, add to average. So watch what happens here. We have a student with an 18. I have to put in 32 points. I'm literally adding 32 points to overall average. And as soon as that saves, you'll see, boom, the student now has a 50%, which is policy. Now the student above doesn't need 50 points, only needs 3.38 points, but same idea. I come in and add the points that are needed, 3.38. And when that saves, you'll see that the score that was less than 40 or less than 50 will save and bump that student up to 50. Simple as that. You can add extra credit. This is especially important right before IPRs and right before report cards. That district policy is don't send home anything less than a 50%. So that's one way you can always make sure that that doesn't happen, is add an extra credit assignment. To change some of the settings in TAC, under your initials in the upper right, you click on the blue circle. You get a drop down that says settings. Click on settings, and you'll see you have some options. You can have some wallpaper and background color, whatever is available. You pick what you like just by clicking on the oval. You come down, you can see attendance view type is set for list view. There's also a photo view. That'll be a future video where you can take attendance with a seating chart with pictures. A little more complicated than just a click. You could have your assignments sorted ascending, which is normal, or descending, which is reverse order. And also auto save. We saw this earlier where when I made a change of a grade, it auto saved. Personally, I don't like that. That's your option. You could click it to say manual save with an auto save as a backup every so many minutes. So I'll just set this to 3 minutes. So what that does is you'll notice from earlier in the video, you saw if I changed the score, it just saved at some point a few seconds later. But now if I go to mark entry, you see I now have a new icon of the save icon. Personally, I like this much better to save on my own. So now I can click in and create a score, enter a score for a student. And once I do that, I manually hit the save button. Kind of old school, but that's a preference. And there you go, now that's saved. Some additional settings that you have access to are same location up near the save icon, but it's the red exclamation point. So let's move up there and click the red exclamation point. They're called indicators. When you open up, those are indicators that you can turn on, but first you have to click the option up above. Sometimes you miss this. The very first line says show indicators. But click on that. Now you see the checkboxes become enabled. And I can click on whatever I really like. So let's take a look at what they actually do. Exceeds maximum, I click that and look, poof, you see that score became highlighted. So any score, maybe it's a typo, or I put in more than what it was worth, that shows me that as an indicator I could do. You can also click on drop scores if I made a score drop. I didn't do that in this particular example, but that would show up. History is another good one. If I changed a score, you see all the little H's popped up there when I say history. When that indicator shows that that score has been changed. So whether you're sharing a class with someone or if you just did it yourself, you want to make sure what the original score was. Comments, you can see a little C icon pops up if you show comments. And the last one is attendance, and the red highlighted cells now are due dates of assignments when the student was absent that day. That's what that indicates. So even though we have a lot of scores in there, the student technically was absent on a day when an assignment was due. So that might explain some scores being missing because the student was absent. So that's an option. You can show any or all of those if you want, or unshow them if you don't like to show those at all. Certainly an option for you in your gradebook. And here's, again, the history one. So I click on the H and I get the drop down to say view score history. And I knew there was a previous score in there. You could see the original score and then the current score, or you'd see the breadcrumb trail of score changes for any item. So that could help settle a dispute or just remind you of a student turned something in late or a second time or whatever it happens to be. There you have it. Lots of personalized settings in Gradebook TAC. I hope you found this video to be quite helpful.